All right, today we are on page 17 and 18 in our notes. We are actually going to take point slope form and talk about how we can graph using just that form, and so not just using slope intercept form. Okay, so on page 17, Clara needs to graph the equation y minus 4 equals 2 parentheses 7 minus x minus 7. Okay, so last time we took notes, we talked about point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So an information that we know is we know that it crosses this point of 7, 4. So it crosses the ordered pair 7, 4. And we also know that the m, or the slope, is 2 or 2 to 1. Okay, so using the information above, list the steps Clara should take to create her graph. So first, we know for sure that it crosses 7, 4. So let's first go ahead and let's plot the point 7, 4. Okay, so over here, we're going to go 7, 4, and we plot that ordered pair. Okay. We also know that it has a slope of 2 or 2 to 1. So what we can do is we can use our slope 2 to 1 to create more points. Okay, so here's 7, 4. We know for sure it crosses there. So now let's use our slope 2 to 1 to create half the graph. And then let's go back to 7, 4. Instead of going upright, let's go down left to create the other half. Okay, so our graph would look something like that. Okay. So the last question in this one says, is there another way Clara could have created her graph? So if we look at y minus 4 equals 2x minus 7, okay? If this were me and I had never known what point slope form was before, what I would do is I would solve, or I would rearrange the problem to look like slope intercept form, because we've been doing that in pre-algebra and this year, and most people feel more comfortable with that anyway. So why not just solve for y? So I would distribute the 2 and get 2x minus 14, and then I would add the 4, and I would get y equals 2x minus 10. And it kind of shows us that we did graph it right, because this would tell us that we would start at negative 10 and we would go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. So it looks like we have graphed the equation correctly. All right. So for questions 1 and 2, it says to list a point on the line and then to create a graph of the equation. So just looking at point slope form, I know for sure that it crosses the ordered pair 3, 5. I also know it has a slope of 1/3. Okay, so to create a graph, we could just plot the point that we know it's on, 3, 5. And then we could use our slope up 3, right 1 to just create more points. So we go back and we go down and left. So this graph would look something like this. Again, that is not the only way we could have done it. We could have just rearranged this equation to look like slope intercept form. We would do that by distributing the 1/3. And 1/3 times negative 3 would be negative 1. We would add the 5. We would get 1/3 x plus 4. We could start at 4, go up through 1 over 3. So both of these work, and you just have to pick which one you feel more comfortable with. Okay, for this one, we have a point on the line. It would be negative 1, negative 3. Again, because we see addition going on, we have to kind of flip the sign to make the subtraction in the formula work. And the slope is the m value, negative 2 or negative 2 to 1. Okay, so if we don't want to do any other math, we could just plot this ordered pair, negative 1, negative 3, and we could go down to right 1, down to right 1, and then go backwards. So this would be the line of this equation. Okay. Again, you could just solve for y-intercept form, so solve for y basically, so distribute the negative 2, negative 2x minus 2, then move the plus 3. Okay. Again, we know that we're right because it crosses at negative 5 and it goes down to right 1, down to right 1. So just giving you guys some options. For number 3, Gavin needs to write an equation for the graph below in point slope form. In A, list the information Gavin needs to write his equation. So we have this line. We don't know the starting point or the y-intercept, so we kind of need a different avenue to write this equation. Okay, so it tells us 2 good points. It tells us 5, 7, and it tells us 6, 4. So we just have to pick one of them. I'm just going to pick 5, 7. Okay. From these 2 points, though, I can find the slope, so I'm going to find the rise to the run. So this goes down 3, from -7 to -4 is down 3, and then from 5 to 6 is up 1. So the slope is -3 to 1, or just -3. Yeah. Now, using this information, we could just write it in point slope form. So y minus our y1, so -7, equals our slope times x minus our x1, which is 5. Okay. Now we could, for part C, it says to rewrite this equation in slope-intercept form. So let's distribute the -3. -3x plus 15. We would add 7. Add 7. -3x plus 22. Okay. What new information does this give us? It doesn't tell us anything new about the slope. We knew it was going down 3, right 1. But it does tell us what our y-intercept is. So it tells us our starting point if we had a graph that was big enough. So the y-intercept is 0, 22, or starting at 22. All right, on page 18, it says to write an equation for each graph in point slope form, then to rearrange it and write it in slope intercept form. So again, to write it in point slope form, we need a point, that's why it's called point slope, and a slope. Okay, so we have to look for perfect points. So this looks like a perfect point, so does this one, and so does this one. We just have to pick one of them. So I'm gonna pick this one because it's closest, -2, -3. You do not have to pick the same as me. Those are just the ones I chose. Okay, then we can use any of these 3 points to find the slope. Okay, I'm going to go from here to here. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, and over 2. So my slope is -3 to 2. Okay, so my equation would be y minus -3, so it makes it an addition problem, equals my slope, -3/2, times x minus -2. So again, it becomes an addition problem. Okay. Then we could rearrange this into slope-intercept form. So we will distribute the -3/2. -3/2 times +2 would become a -3. We would take out that 3. And we get y equals -3/2 x minus 6, which does make sense because if we went down 3, right 2, we would cross the y-intercept at -6. All right, number 5 says, again, the same exact thing. So we need a point and we need the slope. Okay, so it looks like 2, 0, 3, 6, 4, 12, 5, 18, 6, 24. All of those are adequate points. Let's just use this first one, 2, 0. All right. Then we want to find the slope. Okay, we have to be very careful with our scales. Look at our scale. It's not going by ones. These are going by ones, though. So we're going to go up 3, 6, and over 1. So our slope is 6 to 1, or just 6. So in point slope form, y minus y1, 0, equals m times x minus x1, or 2. Then when we rearrange it into slope-intercept form, we just solve for y. So first we distribute the 6. Adding 0 doesn't really do anything to this equation. So y equals 6x minus 12. Okay, which again makes sense. If we went down 2 or down 6, we'd be at -6. We'd go down again, we'd be at -12. Okay. Use your knowledge of point-slope form to find the y-intercept of the graphed line. Okay. Again, we do see the y-intercept, but we don't know exactly what this value is. We could assume it's maybe halfway, but if we're not 100% sure, we need to have a different way of solving for this y-intercept. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use point-slope form. So I'm going to use the point 3, 1. Again, I'm just writing this as an ordered pair. Okay, then I need to find the slope. Okay, so it does give us 2 points. So I'm going to go up. I need to check my scales. These are going by 1, so perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so this ratio is 4 to 8 or 1 to 2. Okay. So now we can put this into point-slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now we are going to distribute the half. 1/2 times 3 would be 3 halves. Okay, then we would add 1 and add 1. Y equals 1/2 x minus a half. Okay, or if you made it into decimals, y equals 1/2 x minus 0.5. So we could have assumed from the graph that it was -1/2, but now we used our points to actually figure out for sure that it was -1/2 as our y-intercept. Okay, now our favorite, some word problems. Okay, Jim sells custom artwork. He charges customers $18 per hour plus a set design fee. A recent order that cost $97 took Jim 4 hours to create. Okay. So when I think about this problem, I think about Jim. He works a number of hours. So that's my input. That's Jim's input. That's what he's doing. And based off that, he gets a cost. He makes money. So input, output. Okay. The rate of change would be what he is getting paid every hour. So this per hour right here would be his rate or his slope. So $18 per hour is his rate. If X represents the number of hours and Y represents the total cost, write an ordered pair from the description. So for this problem, he made $97 for 4 hours of work. So as an ordered pair, his input into the work was 4 hours. His output was $97. Then it says to use A and B to write an equation in point-slope form. So y minus y1 equals our slope times x minus x1. Now it says to rewrite your equation in slope-intercept form. So let's distribute y minus 97 equals 18x minus 72. Then we would add 97. And we get y equals 18x plus 27. Okay. The last thing it says is, what does this y-intercept represent? So let's read the problem again. He charges $18 per hour plus a set design fee. So this starting right here, this starting cost would be his design fee because he has to pay that no matter what. That's his starting cost. And then based off the number of hours, it'd be $18 additionally per hour. Okay, number 8, Val started watching a live video on social media. The equation y plus 20 equals 120 times x plus 1 represents y, the total number of people watching the video, as a function of x, the number of minutes since Val started watching. Okay, list the slope and what it represents. Okay, so our slope is 120. Okay, or we could write it as 120 to 1. Okay, so again, this is like the change in our y's. Slope is just the change in the y's over our change in our x. So for them, they're saying that y represents the total number of people. Total people watching. Okay. and the X represents the number of minutes Val watched. Okay, so this slope could represent 120 new people watching the video every minute Val started watching. Okay. And it says to write the equation in slope-intercept form. So let's distribute the 120. Let's just subtract 20. And we get y equals 120x plus 100. Okay. How many people were watching the video when Val started watching? Okay. So when Val started watching, that would be x equals 0. Okay. Which would tell us y equals, if I plugged in 0 right here, it'd be 120 times 0 plus 100, so it'd be 100. Okay. So it looks like 100 people. Okay. Because the plus 100 is our starting point. Is our starting point or our y-intercept. All right, so that's for today. And then tomorrow we will come back and we will practice. You guys don't have any practice per se today. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.